the first podcast in Pattaya, behind the expertise, about the secrets of professional growth. Here, we meet experts from different fields, discuss their path and answer important questions. Join us. Hi, I'm Ella. Welcome to my podcast. Today, I interview Carl Turner, tax filing expert in Thailand. Hi, Carl.
Hello.
Please share a few words about yourself, about your profession, and how you come to this profession.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm Carl Turner. I've been living overseas now between Thailand and Hong Kong for the last 16 years. So I'm a long-term expatriate, always working in financial services and accounting profession. I've got a background in accounting and business finance. So the key area that we can help people with is make really complex situations and really complex subjects simple to understand for people that are not involved in tax and financial services. So that's where we really help people, is understand complex tax rules in multiple jurisdictions with double taxation agreements and help them really understand what does that mean for them as an individual.
So today I have some questions about tax filing.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are the common misconceptions expats have about tax filing in Thailand?
Okay, so there are quite a few common misconceptions in Thailand. One is that they don't need to file a tax return because they've paid tax in another jurisdiction. Even if they do bring the money into Thailand, that's not true. Even if they've been taxed in another country and they bring the money into Thailand, potentially they still have to file a tax return, and they might be able to use tax credits, but they have to file a tax return. They might have more tax to pay. Other misconceptions is that the Thai revenue doesn't affect these new changes. They don't affect retirees, and they're only interested in people that have a salary. This is not true. So retirement income, pension income, is classed as assessable income in Thailand. So if it's brought into Thailand, they have to declare that on a tax return. A lot of people feel because they've got a retirement visa, they're not working, they don't have to pay tax or declare their assets, but actually some of them do have to file a tax return.
Do I need to file taxes in Thailand if I have income from abroad?
Yeah, so it depends. So if you're a Thai tax resident, so what does that mean? You stay in Thailand 180 days or more in a calendar year. So from the 1st of January in any year until the 31st of December. If you remain in Thailand 180 days, not consecutive, but within that time period, you are a Thai tax resident. Then it depends, what did you do with this income? If the income was earned, like while the work was conducted in Thailand, then yes, this is potentially all taxable in Thailand. If it was from something like pension income or investment capital gains, then it depends if you bring the money and spend it in Thailand. So it's called a remittance tax basis. So if you bring the money into Thailand, remit the money, then yes, these people potentially have to file a tax return. Potentially they have tax to file, but they might be able to claim tax credits for tax paid in another jurisdiction.
How are capital gains from overseas investments taxed in Thailand?
Yeah, so if you're a Thai tax resident, so you live in Thailand 180 days or more in a calendar year, and you disinvest or withdraw from an investment account overseas, if you bring the money into Thailand, so remit the funds into Thailand, then what we look at is what was the capital gain on that investment. If there's a capital gain on the investment, then we work out the percentage of that was remitted or brought into Thailand. And that's the amount that would file on your personal income tax return. Potentially, we could use any tax paid in another jurisdiction as a tax credit. And that's how we work out the capital gains for investments.
Is my pension from overseas taxable, and how I report it?
So this all depends on whether you've remained in Thailand for 180 days in a calendar year. Let's assume that you are a Thai tax resident and you have a pension from overseas and you bring that pension into Thailand. So either you transfer the money into a Thai bank or you spend it on a ATM card where the source of the money was the pension, then this is classed as remittance of foreign sourced income.
Mm-hmm.
Then we need to look at the double taxation agreement between the country the pension is in and Thailand to see, are there any exclusions? So for example, if it is US Social Security, due to the double taxation agreement, it is excluded from Thai foreign source income. So we look to see if there's any exclusions. If there's not, then we follow the Thai domestic tax rules. And we can use potentially the tax paid already in another jurisdiction as a credit,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't mean you don't have to file in Thailand. There are some double taxation agreements which show that they're only taxable, the pensions are only taxable in Thailand. Some show that they're not taxable in Thailand. Some show that both can tax in terms of you might have more tax to pay, but you could use the tax already paid as a credit.
Is there a double tax agreement for Russian?
Yes. So with the double taxation agreements in Thailand, there are 61 different double taxation agreements.
Mm-hmm.
And Russia have signed a double taxation agreement with Thailand. It was signed in 1999. And this actually shows how assets can be taxed or potentially taxed in both jurisdictions. So if someone's living in Thailand and they're bringing in assets from Russia, there's a clear rules on the double taxation agreement for how it can be taxed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so there is a double taxation agreement, yes.
Mm-hmm. And for Russian people, it's the same rules for the tax, right? Tax filing.
Yeah, exactly the same. Yes, exactly right. So if a Russian person is bringing in salary or dividends or property rental income or crypto capital gains, very important, if they are transferring that money to Thailand and they're living here 180 days or more, then they have a Thai tax responsibility to file a tax return and potentially pay tax on the money that's been remitted to Thailand. They can potentially use tax credits for tax paid in another jurisdiction. But yes, this applies to Russians. It applies to all people that are living in Thailand, whether they're Thai or foreigners or expats that are living here, if they remain 180 days or more in a calendar year, or they can remain less than that if they have domestic income. So things like rental property income here in Thailand or salary, for example.
What are deadlines for tax filing in Thailand, and what happens if I miss them?
Yeah, so the tax year runs the 1st of January all the way to the 31st of December. So it's the calendar year. And you have to file a personal income tax return if you meet the criteria. So you have domestic income or you're bringing in foreign sourced income. You have to file from the 1st of January the next year all the way up until the first week in April. So the tax year runs the calendar year, then you have to file from the 1st of January the next year all the way up until the first week in April. That's when you can file. To file, there are a few different ways. You can either do this physically in the local revenue office and fill out the forms. You can actually do this online through the e-filing, but it's important that you make sure you fill that out correctly. Or you can use a tax service like ourselves, Expat Tax Thailand, where we have an online client portal, an application that's available on iOS and Android, where they just fill out the details, answer a few simple questions, and we help them file remote so they don't need to visit any office. If people do miss the deadline to file, we can help. So we do a lot of back tax filing. That's what we call it. So if people miss the deadline, we can file for previous tax years and we can file on the client's behalf. The revenue department is likely to charge 1.5% interest for every month that it has been missed, but we can help people correct previous years if they've not filed properly, yes.
Can we share the link of application or website?
Yeah.
Maybe someone will be interesting.
Yeah, I'll share the link for our client portal and the website where there's a lot of questions answered on there on the frequently asked questions section. So a lot of people can find the information out direct from our website.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if people would like to have a discussion about their own situation, for example, I've dealt with quite a few Russians that have assets overseas in various locations, and really help them understand what are their responsibilities and liabilities in Thailand if they are living here, and what can they do. Are there certain visas that you can use, like the LTR, long-term residency visa? If they are bringing in large amounts of money, maybe that might be more suitable because there are certain tax incentives and tax breaks for certain assets like foreign source income if they qualify for these types of visas.
I think it's quite interesting for Russian people because normally Russian people, I think they do not think about tax filing when they come to Thailand.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So for a lot of people, if they're spending cash in the bank from previous years, then they don't need to worry. They don't need a tax ID number and they don't need to file. But if they do have businesses overseas and they're receiving dividends or an income and they're bringing that into Thailand, they have to file. If they've got investment accounts and they're selling down investments on the gains, they have to pay tax. If they've got crypto accounts and they're selling crypto assets and bringing that into Thailand, again, it's actually assessable income if they've made a gain on there. So a lot of people, they just don't understand the rules for Thailand. But that's where we're here to help people really get an understanding for what the rules are, and then they can make their own informed decisions what they do.
Also quite difficult to study the rules in Thailand because most of the law in Thai language. Maybe people who live in here quite long time, yes, they can search something by themselves, some information in English. But anyway, as foreigners, we are a bit limited with information.
Yes. Yeah, it is a problem. So yeah, we try and help by translating a lot of the Thai documents into English. We put out a lot of video content to try and explain it in simple terms. But you are right. If you are looking in Russian language, there's not that much available. So I understand that point. But if people do want to have a discussion about their own situation, we're happy to help them to really understand their own situation. And it might be as simple as just saying they let us know their assets and what they're bringing in. And then, like the example I had the other day, we went through, he's got a lot of cash in his investment portfolio. He's not made a gain. He's actually lost money. He can bring that money and there's no tax on there. So it's not the case that if we have a discussion, it means they have to pay tax. It means they can understand the rules, because what we don't want people to do is they don't file anything. They bring in a large amount of money and they get audited. And the problem with that is then they have to prove to the revenue what all this money was. It can affect visa status. There could be fines and penalties, and it can be a long drawn out process to get all the documentation together. So to help people not go down that route, it's really just preparing and understanding what are the liabilities and what are the risks for not filing as well.
Can I claim tax credits for tax paid from another country when I'm filing in Thailand?
Right, yeah, so good question. So if you bring the money into Thailand, so we call that as remittance, so transfer funds overseas, and you've paid tax on that money overseas, so let's say investment gains or pensions or like a property rental income, you've already paid tax in another country. Then what we need to do is look at that double taxation agreement to say, are we allowed to claim that tax credit in Thailand? Potentially we can claim the tax already paid, depending on the jurisdiction. So we have to file a tax return in Thailand for those assets if it meets the criteria to file, but we can maybe use the tax already paid as a tax credit, depending on the asset. So yeah, in principle, yes, we can potentially use the tax credit to file and claim the tax back claim the allowance in Thailand for the tax that's already been paid.
What are the most common deductions and allowances for expats in Thailand?
Yeah, so when people file a tax return, they're allowed certain allowances and deductions depending on their own situation. So if someone is married and their spouse does not have an income, you can claim an allowance for them. If they're over 65, they get another allowance, an age allowance. If they've got children, you can claim for each child as well. Depending on their ages, there are certain extra allowances for those as well. If you've got adopted children, you can claim for those as well. If you're looking after elderly parents and they've got a tax ID number, then you can claim for those as well. If you've got looking after people with disabilities, there's extra allowances. If you donate to charities that are registered, you can get an allowance and deduction for this as well. So there are quite a few different ones. If you have health insurance, local Thai medical insurance, you can claim a deduction from there as well. You get allowances for different types. Also life insurance in Thailand. If you have Thai tax saving investments, you can claim that if you contribute into these as well. So there are quite a few allowances and deductions you can claim for. And what we do is we guarantee that we would claim for all of the allowances and deductions that are allowed for yourself if you file with ourselves.
How does the new foreign source income tax rule affect to my tax liability in Thailand?
Yeah, so the rules have changed in Thailand, and from this year onwards, if you've remained 180 days or more and you bring in foreign sourced income into Thailand, you may now have to file a Thai tax return and you may have tax to pay. Previously, if you brought it in the following tax year, there was no tax liability. But now, if you bring in things like pension income, you bring in rental property income, investment capital gains, dividends, you sell a property and bring the money in, potentially now you have to file a tax return in Thailand. Potentially there's tax to pay. So the rules have changed. People need to file a tax return from the 1st of January 2025 until the end of April for the current tax year. If people need more information, whether they need to file, they need to reach out and find out the rules so they can make better informed decisions whether they need to file or not.
What is the process for applying tax ID and why do I need it?
Okay, so for people that are living in Thailand 180 days or more in a calendar year, if they have a domestic income, so rental properties in Thailand or a salary in Thailand, they need to file a Thai tax return. And if they are bringing in foreign source income, so they live in Thailand 180 days or more and they remit in foreign source income, so things like pension income, investment capital gains, rental property, dividends, sell a property and bring those assets in, then they also need to file a tax return. To file a tax return, you need a Thai tax ID number. To get a Thai tax ID number, you can either visit your local revenue office, fill out the forms, and as long as you can prove you need one, they will issue you a tax ID number. Or you can use a service like Expat Tax Thailand has, where we'll obtain a Thai tax ID number for you without you needing to leave your home. We do this fully remote for yourself. You fill out your details online, provide a copy of your passport, some sort of address proof, and we will do the rest. We will visit your local revenue office on your behalf and get you a Thai tax ID number, send you that in the post. You don't need to do anything.
Even no need original passport and anything else? Just copy is enough?
Yeah, so we will ask for the documents to be sent to us in the post. We will send the courier to yourself to pick the documents up that are required. We do everything for themselves. Yes. We all need a copy of the document. Yes.
If I'm non-resident in Thailand, do I still need to file tax?
Well, let's explain what a non-resident is first. A non-Thai tax resident just means someone who has not remained in Thailand for 180 days or more in a calendar year. So if you stay here, Ella, for 179 days in a tax year, you are a non-Thai tax resident. That means if you bring in foreign source income into Thailand, you don't need to file a tax return. But if you do have domestic income, so property rental income, or you have a salary in Thailand, you still have to file a tax return. So it's only for what we call foreign sourced income. So money from overseas that's classed as income that's transferred or remitted into Thailand or spent in Thailand on an ATM credit card.
Do I need to report cryptocurrency gains when I do tax filing in Thailand?
Yep. So good question. It's very topical at the moment with the new changes to the Thai personal income tax rules. It depends. So if the crypto assets are on a Thai exchange and you sell and make a gain, then you need to file that on a Thai tax return. If the assets are overseas outside of Thailand and you sell and make a gain and you bring that money into Thailand, remit into Thailand, then yes, this needs to be filed on a personal income tax return if they have remained in Thailand 180 days or more in the calendar year that they sold the assets. So it depends on their circumstances and situation, but potentially yes, for people that remain in Thailand ongoing, if they sell crypto assets overseas on any exchange and they bring that cash into Thailand, transfer the money across, then yes, we have to file for the gain percentage that's been brought in. That's added to the personal income tax for that year.
What is the penalty for failing to declare foreign income in Thailand?
Okay, so if someone's living in Thailand more than 180 days and they remit in, so they transfer or spend foreign income in Thailand and they don't file a tax return when they have a filing obligation, then there are quite harsh penalties that can be imposed by the Thai Revenue Department. These can include 1.5% per month for every month that the tax has been owed, plus up to 200% of the tax that has been owed as a penalty, plus up to 200,000 Thai baht of a fine, plus up to 1 year imprisonment if they don't pay the penalty that and the tax that's owed. Plus it can affect their visa status as well. So it's important that people, like all revenue departments around the world, it's important that people comply because the penalties can be quite punitive and harsh.
How can I avoid double taxation on my retirement income in Thailand?
Okay, so with the double taxation rules, if the jurisdiction where the pension is from, so the location of the pension, if that country has a double taxation agreement with Thailand and you transfer that money into Thailand, we look at what the double taxation agreement states. A lot of the time, you can use the tax paid in another jurisdiction as a tax credit against the tax paid in Thailand. So that's how we would use the double taxation agreement. There are some countries like the US where that's not the case. For pensions, like 401ks, the double taxation agreement shows that the assets are taxable in Thailand, but not in the US. So it depends on the double taxation agreement for where the assets are, the pensions, and Thailand with the double taxation agreement. So it's not as clear as we always claim it. It depends. So that's where we're here to help. If people would like information on their specific pensions and the location, we have many webinars for different nationalities and jurisdictions. And if still they don't have the information, they can reach out to us and we will help them understand the rules.
Before I heard, but it's from Russia. They want to apply tax for the property people have in Thailand. They can do it by double tax regulations.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yes. So it depends. So if there's a Russian that's living in Thailand and Russia has a rule that applies that even for non-residents, they can be taxed on the asset, then yeah, they can potentially tax. If they change their revenue code, if Russia changes the revenue code and the double taxation agreement shows that this is allowed, they will make it so that it is, then potentially, yes, they could be taxed depending on how Russia wants to change their own revenue code. It depends on how this would be put in the legislation in Russia for overseas properties or overseas assets.
We are in another country and then they want put tax on our property here.
Yeah, right. Well, some nationalities like US nationals or US green card holders, regardless if they live in the US or not, they have to file a tax return in the US for their worldwide income and worldwide assets. So there are other countries that have this worldwide taxation, even if they're not living or remaining in that country. So it could happen, but it depends if Russia has a lot of kickback from people, and whether they'll be able to get that through and approved in the revenue code. But there are other countries that already do this. So potentially, yes. The problem what we've got Ella, is a lot of countries, they need to increase their tax revenue. And people that are living overseas, it's an easy tax grab because they're not necessarily voting in Russia, for example, just as an example. So if they need to increase their tax base and their tax revenue, it might be an easier target rather than changing and increasing domestic tax rules where, you know, the voters would probably not be happy with the changes. It might be easier to change the rules for people that are living overseas that are not voting, or, you know, they potentially have a higher income overseas than in Russia, and they can increase their tax base without decreasing votes.
Just wondering, in UK, in USA, do they have like a tax for some luxury things like car or something like that?
It depends what people are buying and where from. So actually, for certain assets that are bought from non-EU countries, for example, there are certain tariffs that are placed on those assets. It's a bit different in the UK. It depends where those assets are from, how they're taxed as well. But not necessarily like an increase to tax on those individual items. No, but they do it in a different kind of way. So they add tariffs to the companies for importing into Thailand, into UK or into US. So they sort of, in the US especially, they try and protect local US companies by adding tariffs on certain protected industries and sectors. So that's how they do it. So they actually charge them, the companies, a tariff. For the end user, you don't tend to pay, you do pay more because obviously they're charging the company more. So it will increase the price. But you don't really see that on your tax. The VAT is usually the same. It's just a different way. But it's a similar sort of approach. Yeah.
Are there any benefits or exemptions for expats who married to Thai nationals?
Yeah, so it's a good question. It doesn't really matter if you're married to a Thai national or a foreign national. You get the same benefits and allowances. So it depends whether the spouse is working or not. If the spouse is not working, then you can claim as a joint married filer and you get 60,000 Thai baht allowance, regardless of their nationality and even where they live, actually. So you can claim for a spouse, even if they're not living here, if they don't have an income in Thailand, we can use their passport rather than their Thai ID. So yes, there's no difference if you have a Thai spouse or a foreign spouse. You can still claim the allowance if they don't have an income in Thailand.
Can you please explain the process, how to file taxes for expats through your platform?
Yes, so if people would like to use our tax filing service, first of all, we need to see what kind of tax filing that they need. If it's we have 3 levels of filing, so available for all types of people that need to file, from very simple cases where we need to file, but there's potentially no tax to pay, to people that need to claim a tax credit, to people that have got a really complicated situation where they need help putting this together. So what they would need to do, go to our website. They can actually sign up for tax filing. We have a client portal, and they can actually download the application that we have, which is on Apple, iOS, and Android. So they can actually have it on their phone as well. Sign up to the client portal, and then they can actually fill out their details. Simple question and answer, simple application on there. All their information stored on there for the next tax year as well. Everything's through the app. They can pay through the app, and we can manage everything through there by email or through the private chat message through there. Everything's secure as well. It's encrypted, and it's on a US server. So for client protection, the data is safe.
And if people, they want to do it online, like maybe they feel not safe and they want to come to your office, can they do that?
Yeah, so we have an office in Saturn. If people would like to meet face-to-face to fill out their tax return, we can. Or if they prefer, we can have an online video call and we can go through the information there and fill that out. So they're the options that are available to them. So they can either do it through our client portal, or on their own, which is available on a laptop, just on a web browser. They can download the app and fill out the details on whatever device they have. Or if they wish, they can have a video call and we can fill out the details direct with them. Or if they want to visit our office, there's that option as well.
If they have to visit it, if they want to visit your office, should they make appointment in advance?
Yes. So they need to make an appointment with us. They can do that through our website. They can book a time to go through this in person.
Okay.
The majority of people would prefer to do it in their own home, in their own time, and fill out the details and deal with it remote. But just to reassure people that we are here to help if they have any questions. We're not, there is a person at the other end of the system. And if they do have a question, they can reach out, give us a call, or arrange a meeting to go through it.
What are the different tax plan you offer and how clients can choose the right one?
We have 3 different levels of tax filing service. Our essential service is for people with very simple cases, bringing in a single source of income, people that potentially don't have to claim tax credits, but they have a tax filing obligation. That's our cheapest and most cost-effective tax filing service. We also have an assisted tax filing, where we help people claim for tax credits for tax paid in other jurisdictions and multiple income sources. And then we have our expert filing, where people who have complicated situation, multiple income sources, and they need help going through their statements and actually analyzing what is taxable and what isn't. So we have 3 levels of service. They can sign up online. We have a client portal and application that they can download on Google. They can use through Google through their web browser, or they can actually download the application on their iPhone or Android and deal with it through there. Yes.
Okay. But if they just come, they don't know which plan to choose, you can advise them,
We can advise
right?
them, yes. So there's an option they can choose. I don't know which one's suitable for myself. And then we can arrange a quick call to understand their situation so that we can find the right filing service for their circumstances.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very interesting. I opened something new for myself and I hope everybody will be interested in this. Thank you for coming and
no
for
problem.
interview.
Thanks, Ella. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Happy to help.